Complexity feels like sophistication. A dozen accounts, 5 credit cards, 3 brokerages, a budgeting app you stopped opening in March. It looks like someone taking money seriously. But walk into the home of someone who is actually wealthy, and the setup is almost embarrassingly plain. So why does the person with the simplest finances so often end up with the most? The answer runs against everything the financial world sells you, because the financial world does not make money when your money is simple. Stay with me, and you will never look at your own accounts the same way again. Let us start with the thing nobody wants to admit. Managing money takes attention, and attention is not free. Every account you open, every card you carry, every app you download, every login you have to remember is a small withdrawal from a bank account you never think about. Your focus. And unlike your checking account, that one does not refill overnight. You have felt this even if you never named it. It shows up as the statement you keep avoiding. It is the transfer you meant to make that sat on your mental to-do list for 3 weeks. And it is the subscription you keep paying for long after you stopped using it, not because you cannot afford to cancel, but because canceling means logging into an account whose password you no longer remember. There is a name for what happens next. Decision fatigue. Every choice you make in a day pulls from the same limited well of willpower, and money throws decisions at you constantly. Which account does this bill come from? Which card gives the better reward here? Should you move the cash now or later? By the time the important decisions arrive, the ones that build real wealth, you are running on empty. So you defer, you default, and eventually you do nothing at all. And doing nothing with money is rarely free. Now here is where the research gets surprising. A team led by a Columbia University professor named Sheena Iyengar studied nearly 800,000 people and their workplace retirement plans. They wanted to know what happened when employers offered more investment options. Common sense says more choice is better. More freedom, more control, better outcomes. That is not what they found. For every 10 additional fund options an employer added to the menu, participation in the plan dropped by around 2 percentage points. A plan that offered just 2 funds saw participation near 75%. Push the menu up to around 59 funds, and it fell to roughly 60%. Sit with that for a second. These were not people who could not afford to save. Many were walking away from free employer matching money, real dollars their company would have handed them, because the menu in front of them was too long to face. And the ones who did enroll often took the easy way out. They parked their contributions in the safest, lowest returning option on the list, the money market fund, just to make the decision stop. More choice did not make them richer. It made them freeze. Then it made them settle. That is choice overload, and it does not stay locked inside the retirement account. It follows you everywhere your money is scattered. Which brings me to the first hidden cost of a complicated financial life, the scattered account tax. Think about someone I will call Angela. Angela is responsible. She keeps a checking account at the big bank near her old apartment, a savings account she opened for a vacation 2 years ago, another savings account from a bank that gave her a sign-up bonus, an old workplace retirement account she never rolled over after she changed jobs, and a brokerage app she funded once during a hype cycle and mostly ignores. Nothing here is a disaster. Every piece made sense on the day she set it up, but together, these pieces add up to a person who has no idea what her money is really doing. About $8,000 sits in that big bank savings account, earning almost nothing. Her old retirement account holds a high fee fund she has never once looked at. A small brokerage balance floats somewhere she forgets she even owns. None of it is coordinated. None of it points at a goal. Angela is not broke, and she is not careless. She is just spread too thin to see the whole board. And you cannot manage what you cannot see. The saddest part of the scattered account tax is how invisible it is, So let me make it visible with the clearest example there is: where you keep your cash. As of the middle of 2026, the national average interest rate on a savings account in America was 0.38%. That figure comes straight from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC. Meanwhile, the best high-yield savings accounts, the ones from online banks, were paying right around 4%, and some a little higher. And many of the largest traditional banks in the country, the household names, were still paying 0.01%. Let me turn that into dollars, because percentages hide the pain. Say you keep $10,000 in savings, a reasonable emergency cushion. In a high-yield account at 4%, that $10,000 pays you about $400 a year for doing absolutely nothing. In a big traditional bank at 0.01%, that same $10,000 pays you about $1, not $100. One single dollar. It is the same money, the same safety, the same FDIC insurance, and one setup pays you 400 times more than the other. Scale that up to a fuller emergency fund, and the gap gets loud. Say you have done the responsible thing and saved $15,000 for a rainy day. At 4%, that money earns you $600 a year. At the national average of 0.38%, it earns about $57. That is a difference of over $500 a year handed to you for moving your cash one time into an account that is every bit as safe. Here is the simplification lesson buried in that number. The problem is almost never that people choose the worst account on purpose. What really happens is that their cash is scattered across old accounts they never consolidated, so they never notice it has gone to sleep. Angela, with her $8,000 in a big bank savings account, is losing close to $300 a year, every single year, purely because the money is sitting in the wrong place and she is too spread out to move it. Consolidate that cash into one strong account and the leak seals itself. One decision, made one time, worth hundreds of dollars a year for the rest of your life. There is one form of scattered money so common it has become a national problem, and odds are you are carrying some of it yourself. The left-behind retirement account. Every time someone changes jobs, they tend to leave their old workplace retirement plan sitting exactly where it was, untouched and half forgotten. Remember Angela and that old account she never rolled over. She is not unusual at all. As of the middle of 2025, a rollover platform called Capitalize estimated there were nearly 32 million of these forgotten 401k accounts across America, holding somewhere around $2.1 trillion between them. The average forgotten account held about $66,000. That is not loose change. That is a serious piece of someone's retirement drifting along on autopilot with nobody watching over it. Here is why it matters far beyond the clutter. Once you leave a company, that old plan can stop being subsidized, which means the administrative fees your employer used to help cover now land fully on you. Combine years of those small fees with a default investment nobody ever adjusted, and the damage compounds against you the whole time. That same analysis estimated that, in a worst-case scenario, a single forgotten account could cost someone over $500,000 in lost retirement savings across a full career. $500,000 gone, not to a market crash or a bad bet, but to an account somebody simply never got around to consolidating. And the fix is almost insultingly simple. When you leave a job, you roll that old account into one place you already control, usually an individual retirement account, and just like that, it is visible again. One login, a single balance you finally keep an eye on, one less orphan account drifting out there and draining itself in the dark. If you have held more than one job in your life, there is a real chance you have money like this floating around at this very moment. and tracking it down might be the single most profitable afternoon you spend all year. Now let us talk about the drain that hides in plain sight on your card statement. Subscriptions. Research from a firm called C+R found that when you ask Americans how much they spend on subscriptions each month, the average person guesses around $86. Then, when those same people are walked through their actual charges, category by category, the real number comes out closer to $219 a month. That is a gap of about $133 every month that people did not know was leaving their accounts. In a separate study from a firm called West Monroe, 89% of consumers underestimated their true subscription spending, and more than 40% admitted they were paying for at least one subscription they no longer used at all. This is not a story about irresponsible people. It is a story about complexity doing exactly what complexity does. These charges are small. They are on autopilot. They are spread across 3 different cards, billed on 3 different days of the month. The system is built for you to forget, and forgetting is expensive. That $133 monthly gap comes to about $1,600 a year. And if you took that same amount and invested it instead at a historically normal 7% return, over 30 years, it would grow to roughly $162,000. That is a real retirement account hiding inside the subscriptions you forgot you signed up for. The Fix is not a fancy app. It is a 15-minute act of simplification. You pull up your statements, you list every recurring charge in one place, and you cancel everything you did not consciously choose in the last month. No spreadsheet with 40 tabs. One list, one pass, and you have handed your future self a small fortune. There is a quieter version of this same problem, and it lives in your spending cards. When your daily purchases are split across 4 or 5 cards, you never really feel what you spend. The gym is on one card, the groceries on another, the impulse buys on a third, and the total never lands in one place where you can see it. Complexity here does not just cost you interest, it costs you awareness. Pull your everyday spending onto a single card and something shifts. For the first time, the whole month shows up in one statement, in one number, and you finally know what your life truly costs to run. You did not need a budgeting system. You needed to stop hiding the total from yourself. Now for the big one, because this is where complexity costs the most and hurts the worst. Investing, there is a belief, sold hard by an entire industry, that building wealth in the market requires cleverness. It says you need the right stock picks, the active manager with the hot track record, the complicated strategy that supposedly separates the sophisticated from everyone else. And every single year, the data takes that belief apart. Each year, a scorecard called SPIVA, published by S&P Dow Jones Indices, compares professional active fund managers against a simple index of the market. In 2025, 79% of active large company stock funds in the United States failed to beat the plain S&P 500 index. Stretch the window out to 15 years, and roughly 90% of them fell short. Go all the way out to 20 years, and it is around 92%. Read that again. These are full-time professionals with research teams and terminals and every advantage money can buy, and about 9 out of 10 of them lose to a fund that does nothing but hold the whole market and sit still. If the professionals cannot consistently beat the simple approach, what exactly are you paying for when you buy the complicated one? Usually, you are paying fees. And fees are where complexity does its most silent damage. Consider 2 people investing $100,000 for 30 years, both earning the same 7% before costs. Franklin puts his money in an actively managed fund, charging 1% a year. Deja puts hers in a simple index fund, charging 0.03%. Same market, same time, same starting amount. After 30 years, Franklin ends up with about $574,000. Deja ends up with about $755,000. That difference, roughly $180,000, did not go toward better returns. It went to fees for the privilege of a more complicated product that, on average, performed worse. So the simpler path here is not the lazy path or the settling path. In investing, the plain, low-cost, boring index approach has beaten the clever one for the vast majority of professionals over almost every long stretch of time. Simplicity is not the compromise, it is the edge. If this is landing for you, subscribe and stick around, because the next part is where we stop naming the problem and start building the setup that fixes it. Before we build it, we have to lift the heaviest weight, because nothing simplifies a financial life faster than getting debt off your back. Complexity loves debt. 5 cards, 5 due dates, 5 interest rates, 5 minimum payments, and a monthly guessing game about which one to attack first. That mental load alone keeps people frozen. The move is to stop treating 5 debts as 5 problems and start treating them as one. You list them, you pick a single order to pay them in, and you point every spare dollar at the top of that list while paying the minimum on the rest. One target at a time. Some people order by highest interest rate to save the most money, others order by smallest balance to build momentum. Both work. What fails is fighting on 5 fronts at once and never feeling like you are winning on any of them. Now the setup itself. Here is what a truly simple financial life looks like, and it is almost boring enough to disappoint you. You want one checking account where your paycheck lands and your bills go out. Add one high-yield savings account, holding your emergency fund and earning that 4% instead of a penny. Then one brokerage account for investing outside of work, ideally holding 1 or 2 broad index funds and nothing you have to babysit. And finally, one retirement account, your workplace 401k or an IRA funded automatically. That is the whole machine. For 2026, you can put up to $24,500 into a 401k and up to $7,500 into an IRA. Most people never come close to those ceilings, which tells you the limit is almost never the real problem. The friction is the problem, and simplicity removes friction. The quiet superpower that makes this whole system run is automation, and it matters for a reason that goes far beyond convenience. Remember decision fatigue, the willpower that runs dry. When you automate your money, you make the good decision one time, and then you never have to make it again. Your emergency fund fills itself. Retirement contributions leave on payday before you can feel the money go. The bills pay themselves in the background. You are no longer leaning on being disciplined and sharp on the 4th Tuesday of a hard month. You have taken willpower out of the equation, and you have replaced it with a system that works even on the days you do not. That is what wealthy people do. They do not carry more discipline than you. They carry less to decide. Consolidation protects you in ways you never think about until you need them. When your money lives in one clear place instead of 9 forgotten ones, fraud is easier to spot because you recognize the charges on sight. Tax time stops being a scavenger hunt across 5 institutions for forms you half remember. And if something ever happened to you, the people who love you would be able to find what you left them instead of hunting through a maze of accounts they never knew existed. A simple financial life is not only richer, it is safer, and it is kinder to everyone downstream of you. This points at the truth the whole video has been circling. The behaviors that actually build wealth are almost aggressively boring. There was a large study of American millionaires that found the majority were self-made, that only a minority ever earned a very high income, and that most of them reached real wealth after decades of consistent, unglamorous behavior. Nobody films a viral video about keeping the same car for 15 years, automating one boring index fund, and canceling subscriptions they do not use. That content does not spread. But those are the people steadily ending up with the most, while the ones performing wealth with complexity and flash are often one bad month from the edge. There is a trap even careful people fall into here, and it is worth naming. The optimizer's trap. This is the person who spends 6 hours hunting for the savings account, paying 0.1% more, or endlessly tinkering between 4 nearly identical funds, chasing a perfect setup that barely moves the needle. All that energy spent optimizing the small stuff is energy not spent on the thing that truly changes your life, which is earning more and saving more of it. Simple is not just easier. Simple frees up the attention that complexity was eating and lets you point it at what matters. So if simple works this well, you might reasonably ask why almost no one is telling you to do it. Follow the money. There is an entire industry built on convincing you that your finances are too complicated to handle on your own. Complexity sells products. It sells the actively managed fund with the higher fee. It sells the exciting app, the premium tier, the newsletter, the advisor who charges a percentage of everything you own. A person with one checking account, one high-yield savings account, and one boring index fund is not a good customer. There is very little left to sell them. Your complexity is somebody else's revenue. That is not a conspiracy. It is just an incentive, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Which finally brings us back to where we started and to the real reward you have been building toward this whole time. When your money is simple, something changes that has nothing to do with the numbers. The anxiety lifts. You open your statements now because nothing is hiding in them. Mistakes get rarer because there are fewer moving parts to get wrong. Your Sunday evenings come back, the ones you used to lose to dread. Instead of performing wealth, you start building it. That calm you saw at the very beginning in the person whose setup was almost embarrassingly plain was never luck. It was the natural result of a life with less financial noise in it. Simple did not make them poorer. Simple is a large part of what made them free. You do not need more accounts. You do not need a cleverer strategy or a more sophisticated app. In almost every case, the richer version of your financial life is the smaller one. Fewer accounts, fewer decisions, fewer leaks, fewer nights lying awake doing math you did not need to do. The path to more has been less this entire time. Here is what I would do this week if I were you. Pick one thing from this video, just one, and simplify it. Move your emergency cash into an account that actually pays you. Cancel the 3 subscriptions you forgot you had. Roll that old retirement account into one place you can finally see. Track down that forgotten plan from 2 jobs ago and bring it home where you can watch it. You do not have to fix your whole financial life in an afternoon. You just have to make it one notch simpler than it was yesterday and then do that again next week. None of this works, though, if you were never taught the basic rules of the game, and most of us never were. There is a whole layer of money knowledge that school never got around to teaching. The lessons that would have made every decision in this video obvious years earlier. That is exactly what I walk through next, the money lessons school never taught you, and it is the natural foundation sitting underneath everything we just covered. Before you go, I want to hear from you, because this is where it gets real. Which part of your money feels the most complicated right now? Are you the person with the 5 cards in the app you stopped opening, or have you already simplified something and watched it change how you feel? Tell me the one thing you are going to make simpler this week, or the one that already made the biggest difference for you. Drop it in the comments below. Then read what other people wrote, because sometimes the exact tip you needed is sitting inside a stranger's story. I read these, and the best conversations on this channel happen down there. So tell me where you are starting.